Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are we doing this wonderful fall morning? Notice I got the fall in there, right? Well, I was reflecting the other day. Actually, I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately. I've been put into reflection mode. Anybody ever been put into reflection mode? Yeah. So one of the things is I've been involved with this philosophy for 34 years now, which is a substantial amount of time. And one of the things that has happened in my lifetime is traumatic experiences. Now, we all do our stuff differently. Some people do it nice and quietly, and some people need a great big stage because they're drama people. Anybody a drama person here? Put up your hand, Stacey. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that anybody's learning is more or less because some people do drama and others don't, okay? Be real clear that pain and challenges are the same no matter what stage that you play them out. I happen to be a dramatist. And so one of the things that this philosophy and teaching has done for me over the years is I was a voracious studier and I acquired a vast amount of knowledge. My knowledge base is actually quite extensive. I've read 600 or 700 books, seen 200 or 300 people speak on this over the years. But knowledge is simply that. It's just knowledge. And that's fine. You could sit around and you could talk about it. You could be an expert on it. You could know everything about it. And that's all. It doesn't mean anything else. Knowledge doesn't mean anything until it's applied. When knowledge is applied, then you garner the learning from life that it has to offer. And the key thing that we have to remember, no matter what our circumstances and situations are, is we might experience pain and suffering and discomfort through all of that, but that's the ego experiencing it. The soul, which is the part of us that is here as a journeyer, sees it all as a learning experience. And so it's up to us how we position our consciousness in any given learning experience, what we're going to garner out of the experience. So one of the things I learned earlier on in my trauma and transitions is that no matter what's happening to you, see the good in it and look for the gift. And as you do that, then you can rise from the phoenix, like the phoenix from the ashes, to experience some great newness. So it's been my experience every time I go through one of these situations that something great happens for me and I get some incredible experience of the knowledge that I have at a different level that really enriches the soul and brings a lot out in me and in other people. So what happened to me recently, bottom line, is Ann and I were having a great time on our trip in Italy, and then all of a sudden I had an attack. I have gluten allergies, and I had an attack in Venice. And basically, the bottom line, what happened to me is I had a condition that had been brewing for 25 years, which I didn't know about and had gone undetected, both from the medical and the naturopaths and everybody. But I had a twisted up stomach, and what eventually happened was it jumped up, my stomach jumped up my esophagus and nestled right in beside my heart and spleen and shut off, completely shut down. So there was no functioning. And there I am in Venice thinking I'm having an allergy attack, and all my system shut down. So it was like that for a day in Venice, and then a day to Assisi, and I ended up in an Italian emergency and spent a night in an Italian hospital. And the bottom line was we needed to get back because after they were finished with me, they felt that I needed surgery. And I wasn't too appealing to go through the process there because it took several days and was in a small center, so I wanted to get back home and get to Calgary, and that's where Anna kind of took over and ran the show. And when I got back to Calgary, I went immediately to the Foothills Hospital where I spent 24 days, 12 days to get me ready for surgery, and then surgery and the process to recover after, and I'm still off of work and still in the recovery process. I've got to go tomorrow for another procedure and everything like that. So which is quite an experience for a guy like me that's always been the tough guy, the macho guy. No matter what it was, no matter what life handed me, I was always up on my feet ready to go at it. And so it was quite an interesting experience for my children and my grandchildren to see me in a hospital bed with all kinds of tubes stuck in me and things like that. And when they come to see me, every one of them, every one of my children, my grandchildren, and their spouses all cried, because they'd never seen me like that. And I wanted them to see me like that, because it's good to see that, you know, I'm just a human being too, and sometimes I can take a good crap kicking. Not that I advise you to do that just to garner any learning or knowledge, but things do happen that way. So, what is the real great gift that I got out of this whole experience? Well, the first thing, anybody a control freak here at all? Like to be in control of your experience?
You're the only one.
I'm just the only one here. Oh, well. Okay, we got it. Yeah, the only one that's got control issues. Well, folks, right off the bat, what had happened to me is I had become incompetent. I didn't know at the time, but my potassium count was so low that it was bordering on death, is what the doctors told me when I got back to Calgary. They have a 2.5 to 3.5 scale, and mine was below 2.1, which they don't very seldom ever see, among other things. And so I become incompetent. I couldn't do anything. And so the control part of it was I had to turn it all over to Anna to arrange to get a cab from Assisi to Rome, and arrange a hotel room, and arrange passage back on a airline, and the only thing that we could get was first class the next day, which was a $12,000 ticket. However, can't make money when you're dead, and thank God that it was first class, because I was least able to lay down. And I couldn't walk or do anything, and I had to arrange wheelchair everywhere. I mean, I'd never been on a wheelchair. Great way to go through customs, by the way. Got 3 bottles of wine through and no problem. And told them about it and took my water through, and you get up to the front of the line. I don't recommend getting in the position where you need to do that, but there are advantages to it. And I got to yell out once, which was once I could yell out something. You look at, out of the way, gimp through, coming through. And, you know, it was just kind of an experience I had to have some humor. But anyhow, I was in a position where I couldn't even keep my eyes open to watch the people going by on the airplane when they were loading, because it was just too overwhelming. And so that was my first experience about letting go of control totally. Because I'm a detail person. I usually look after all of that. I like that. But I could not do nothing. Zero. All I could do is just try and fake it, so they didn't realize I was sick, so they wouldn't let us on the airplane. Because we just, Anna just told them that I needed to wheelchair because, you know, I couldn't walk. Yeah, and so when we got back, and there I was in the hospital, oh my God. I got no control over a damn thing. Nothing. Zero. I'm told when I'm getting up, when I'm doing this, they're checking me out, because I was in the post-op room for 12 days before they could get me ready for surgery. I was that far gone. So there was 24/7 care, people coming in, doing this, and I was on the hospital schedule, and I was on everybody else's schedule, the doctors, the cleaning ladies, everybody. And I had absolutely no control over any of it. None. Zero. Zip, zilch, oh my God, I'm out of control. Okay? So the title of the talk is, What's Receiving Got to Do with It? For the first time in my life, I had to 100% open up to receive to what everybody had to give. The visitors that come to see me, the cleaning lady, the doctor, the surgeon, the nurses, everybody. I was totally open and receptive to that, because that's what it was all about. It was all about learning to receive. Anybody think they're good receivers? Most of us think we're pretty good givers. We could work a little bit on giving, but we could sure work a lot on receiving. I had no idea that receiving meant a whole lot more than just somebody giving us a gift or a nice compliment. There is so much more to receiving. And the key learning that I got out of this is that you can receive more if you're willing to give up control. If you're willing to give up trying to control all the details of your life and control all the people and the things, then the benefit out of it is then you're open to receive more. But if you're in the control mode, thinking that you've got to do this, it's got to be that way, blah, blah, then you block all the different opportunities that are available, how you can receive. You block the different channels, you block the different ways. So one of the things that if you want to be totally in control of your life, 100%, then you have to 100% give up control. Well, hold it now, that sounds like an oxymoron. It is not. Because when you 100% give up control, then you turn it over to the higher power and step out of the realm of the ego, and you allow the higher power to direct it, your soul or your spiritual part, to direct you through what it is that you need to do. So it became very apparent that I'm here, I'm a control freak. Okay, so we got to let this go. Okay, I'm going to receive, I'm working on it. I knew it was receiving because the first thing Nadine did when she walked in, she said, "Oh, you get a chance to work on your receiving issues." Thanks for sharing, Nadine. I needed that. Then my practitioner, Susan Berry, walked in and, "Oh, I guess this is an opportunity to receive." Thank you for sharing, Susan. You know, sometimes you don't like to hear those things that you really need to hear and get. So, okay, I'm there and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to work on receiving. Because that's what everybody's got. They're giving me the best that they've got. And I had one of the most phenomenal experiences I've ever had in my entire lifetime with people. I only had 2 little incidences the whole 24 days that I was in the hospital. And I got through those real quick like. But you know, a lot of times with all of the stuff, the drugs and the surgery and all of this stuff, a person's not really a happy kind of a soul at times, a little bit miserable in that. And so the one thing that I did have 100% control on, and I claimed and I took and I worked with, because it was the only thing I had control of, was my attitude. It was the only thing. Zip, zilch, nothing else. Didn't matter what I said. I'm not in control. And I found out that I was on, just like with the universe, with people I can manipulate them around and get a little bit of an idea. But with the universe, and in that situation, I couldn't manipulate it. I was on an as-need-to-know basis. When I needed, it's 4 o'clock, you need to get up. What for? Well, it's blood. Oh God, yes, it's blood. You know, I'm on an as-need-to-know basis. I worked and I studied people's routines so I could figure out what might going to be happening, but I didn't know anything until I needed to know. But I had control of the attitude, you see, folks. And I always remember, and it goes back to what Viktor Frankl said in Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist that was a Jewish psychiatrist that was in Auschwitz for 4 years and survived that. And in his book he talked about that. He said they could torture me, they could starve me, they could beat me, they could control my environment, they could kill me, but they could not take away how I responded to what they did, because that was my freedom. That was the choice that I had. And bottom line was I had that choice. So I decided I was going to work as much as I could with my attitude. And I was going to allow that to be infectious. I was going to share it. And I did that with people, the people I was in the ward with, and all the staff and all the shifts, and they all thought I was quite the character because I did that. And I remember going in to surgery, which was an interesting experience because I wanted to be 100% clear. I did not want to go in under with any negativity. I wanted to be 100% clear. So there I am sitting there, and they've got a nurse holding me. I guess this is something that they do to comfort a patient while they're giving you one of those epidurals, you know, drilling into your back. Ooh, it was fun. And I decided while they were doing that, the thought of it just absolutely drove me nuts. So I decided, well, there's only one way that I can control this situation, is I'm going to tell stories while they're working on me. So they started working on me, and I started telling stories, and no matter how much it hurt, I'm going, oh, jeez, I kept telling the story, never got interrupted at all. I kept going, and then finally they said, well, sir, this isn't working. We're going to have to try a different spot in a different way, so we got to lay you down. Oh, just what I need, another go-around. Well, I just kept telling stories the whole time. I never missed a beat. And when it was over and it was ready to go under, it went whew, perfectly clear, because that was what I could control, you see. I had control of my attitude, and I could control how I was going to go into the surgery with it, and that's what I chose to do. And the only way I could get distracted from what they were doing was to tell these stories, which, by the way, they did have a couple of chuckles during it in the operating room. And then I asked the anesthesiologist come a couple of days later, and I chatted with him and asked him, I said, I hope you don't mind my stories. He said, oh, actually, they were quite entertaining. And so people ask me, which stories did you tell them? Well, I don't remember, to be honest with you, but who knows? It could have been a lot of different things. So it's in life, it's not about what you're willing to ask for, because we're all willing to ask for something. We're always willing to look at giving. It's about what are you willing to receive. Ironically, this whole thing was precipitated by a strong desire I had to accomplish something I wanted to do next year. And what I've been saying for a whole year is that when I get back from our trip to Italy, then I'm going to start my conditioning program to get ready for next year, because I want to climb a bunch of mountains in that next summer, because I'm going to be 65 and stuff like that. So it's just a guy thing. And anyhow, and I also was missing something else, and I was working on trying to find out what is it physically that I've been missing. And I determined at the start of this year that I was going to go on a full-out program of investigation to try and figure it out. Never really realizing that there are different ways that it could be delivered. And that was the way it needed to be delivered, because that's what I needed to do to start my conditioning program. I had to get healthy first. And I didn't know that I needed to get healthy this way. And that was a missing element that we'd been looking for. So you can receive more when you let go of control. That was the greatest gift that I've got of that. And so one of the things that I'm going to be consciously working on from now forward is just letting go of that need to control. And man, I'll tell you, has that ever put me to the test already? I've been tested right, left, and center. However, still in a lot of cases, I've got no alternative. I got to let it go, because they told me I couldn't drive for 4 weeks after surgery. Well, you know, cut off my arm, but don't stop me from driving. You know, I can deal without the arm, but because I got the other one I can drive with, but don't, you know, that. So I had to let go and allow other people to drive me around. But I've been doing that too, and I've been doing it very gracious. So that's what receiving's got to do with it. The other thing is about gratitude and being grateful. And how do you approach this if you've got this vast amount of spiritual knowledge? How do you approach it when you're down for the count and you feel like you're dancing with the Grim Reaper but not ready to go on a date? So what do you do in that place? First off, one of the things I was grateful for that this philosophy taught me is about mental toughness. And no matter what's going on, we still got that ability within ourselves to get that mental toughness and to get a focus. Now, I knew I was in trouble. There's no doubt about that. I was in a lot of trouble. So what was the focus that I brought myself back to? I brought myself back to one idea that I use in spiritual mind treatment all the time for everyone, whoever requests. And one of the things I do is I hold and support them in a vision of life. Now, what that doesn't, and I do that with people that are passing also, because that doesn't necessarily, sometimes dying is a healing, not that I was ready for that, but sometimes passing is a healing, and sometimes recovering is a healing. It depends. So when I go to work with someone, for example, if they're on the last stages, they're in hospice or something, and I always stop and I do a treatment, and I always hold and support them in a vision of life, because that means it's easier for them to release and move on to the next one. So for myself, I held and supported myself in a vision of life, and then I go back to something I use when I go in the mountains all the time, or something I'm using when I have a strange paranormal experience, or sometimes when I feel fear encroaching on me. I always go into this thing as I dwell in the bright Christ light, and only goodness is attracted to me. So my focus and my mental toughness brought me back to this place. I had to release control, and I had to trust. Okay? And with ranging of details, that was a really big step for me. I trusted that Anna could do it, and she stepped up to the plate, and I don't know how she managed it, watching me in the position I was in, which is just about out for the count. But she took charge of everything and got me safely home and got me to emergency. And then my job was, I didn't do too much whining unless we were in the room. I don't whine much unless I got a room where I can have Anna there by myself, and then I whine to her. I don't whine with anybody else around, you know. So that's just my thing. And that was the worst thing about being on first class, because she had her own seat and I had mine, and I had nobody to whine to, so I had to just deal with that. But, you know, to have somebody step up to the plate and do that, and to be able to release the control and receive the gift that they're giving, another form of receiving. Okay? We got to look at receiving in a lot of different ways. There's so much that we receive, and we got to then tap gratitude onto it. I was grateful for the opportunity of spending that evening in the Italian hospital. It was good for the first part because Anna was there and understood a bit of Italian. It was pretty good. And then she left, and then they decided to take some more tests because they couldn't quite figure out what was going on. So it was just me and the Italian guy doing the x-ray machine and everybody else, and only one of them spoke English, and that was one of the female doctors who wasn't there all of the time. But you know, when you need to communicate, it don't matter. You can communicate one way or another. Okay? So I found a way to communicate with them, and vice versa, and we worked it out and got done what we needed to get done. So it's a big thing about trust is a big issue here. And what do you trust? What do you put the trust in? Do you put the trust in other people and other places? No, you put the trust in yourself. That higher part of you, that spiritual self of you, is directing and drawing to you all the people, the circumstances, and the situations that are necessary to be able to facilitate what needs to be done to lead to the destination, wherever that destination is. Of course, our first goal was, let's get back home and allow that to happen. My cost once I landed in the hospital has been $29. Which was a whole lot more than the cost of going through a night in the Italian hospital and then getting back to Canada. Okay? So, is it about the difference between the cost over there and the $12,000 airline ticket and the $29 here? All of that's not relevant. Money's not really relevant in this situation. Yeah, a person has to put the money out, and yeah, there's insurance, there's this, I might get that back, blah, 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 blah. But it's all the bottom line, not about that. It's about doing what you need to do in order to have the experience that's required in order to have your healing. And that is what Dr. Holmes talks about being open at the top. You know, he says that we do whatever it is that we need to do to have our healing. So which brings us to another point about how this can cause a shift in attitude and perception. So I've always had this bugaboo about the medical system, you know, I mean, we'll stay away from that, we'll do it this way, that way, or the other way, blah, blah. And I've had a few stuffings knocked out of me over the years to get me to come around to it, but I had no previous experience, well, not since I've been about 23 years old, with the medical system, and that was all through stupidity. But I got to tell you, after going through what I'm going through, you know, we complain about the income tax we pay compared to the Americans, but I'll tell you, we've got a medical system. And we complain about our medical system a lot. I know I've had a lot of comments and criticisms and complaints about it. However, when I needed it, it was there for me. And I mean it was there 100% unconditionally. And I will not ever speak a word against our medical system again or the people that work in it. You won't hear me doing that. I am totally grateful for them, and more so, not only for them being there, but for the way they discharge their responsibilities, for the TLC and the love and the support, and the way they handle difficult people. I seen them handle some people that was just absolutely incredible. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't do it. It would have taken me back to want to hit some of them, and I don't do that anymore. But I could feel that, you know, because some of the people were really nasty, and they just kept coming back with this TLC and doing what they needed to do. It was the most incredible experience. And to have all the kind words and support from our spiritual community and from my work. My boss clawed back 2 weeks and 2 days holiday and put me on sick leave right from the day I got sick, so that I still got my 2 weeks and 2 days vacation. I thought, what a lovely bonus that was. And he didn't have to do it, but they did anyhow, because it's not written in the contract. You know, it was just something they did, and it was a real nice thing, and I'm very grateful. It brought my children and grandchildren closer together in a different way, and it kind of, my hospital room kind of operated as a hub to carry on some other traumatic family issues that we got going on right now, and where everybody could kind of get together, and I'm there doing all of this, trying to help out and direct that family situation, and it worked out very, very well. Everything worked out well. All we got to do, as Emerson said, is get our bloated nothingness out of the way. And that's the ego. And that's not saying that you can go along and get rid of your ego, because your ego is a part of who and what you are, and it's a part of the human experience. So there's no getting rid of it. It's simply integrating it and knowing it is okay to feel pain, and it's okay to feel like you're suffering, it's okay to feel hurt, and it's okay to feel, why me? Because that's just part of the human experience. However, we got to step back and take that higher road and see what it is that we can garner from the knowledge. I couldn't do anything about the experience I was in. Okay, I was there. But I could do something about what I'm going to carry forward from that experience, and what I'll take with me, and what I have an opportunity to walk the talk with in my life, instead of just talking about it. That's why I always say knowledge is just simply that, is knowledge. It doesn't matter how much somebody knows. A lot of people say, well, I'll never know as much about that as you do about this philosophy. And I could say, yeah, you're right, you probably won't. It doesn't really matter how much you know. What matters is how much you use it, what you do with it, and what you allow yourself to go forward with. That's what really matters. And that's all what the experience is about. It's not about knowledge, it's about the application of that knowledge. Thank God I had that knowledge, and those base things about holding and supporting myself in a vision of life, and about dwelling in the bright Christ light. Those things are my protection elements, and I always go back to those when push comes to shove. The bottom line's there, and that's what gives us the spiritual and the mental and the mental strength to see any situation through to the end. So, when we're dealing with life, life will give us back whatever it is that we're looking for, as long as we don't put any restrictions on it. I come across this as one of my favorite things. It's called my wage. And it's looking in context a thing about with money, but you got to look at this in context with anything we get in life. Doesn't matter. He said, I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask, but once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for menials hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I asked of life, life would have willingly paid. So our journey will give us any richness that we want, if we're willing to step up to the plate and claim it and take it. We don't have to wait until we get a traumatic experience to get our learning. However, some of us do it that way. Okay? We just do it that way. We do drama. So when it does come, don't say, oh, why me? Or after all I know, and how come this could happen to me? And gee, what's life going to be like now? Well, I have no idea what it's going to be like now. I never did have any idea. We just think we do. We never know what it's going to be. We could do that, and we could get into the poor me, and we could probably get a lot of people that would support us in that. We get our pity parties going and all of that. Or we can accept that, hey, I'm here. What can I do about it? What's the gift? And the gift in any situation, you got the initial gifts that one can see, but the long term, we don't know what the gifts are, and they'll continue to come down the line. All I know is I'm excited about that. The one thing I want to leave you with about this idea, this idea is extremely important. You can't have a breakthrough until you have a breakdown. Well, you're probably saying, well, blah, 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 I just want breakthroughs. I just want to move forward with joy and ease and all of that. True, we do that. But joy and ease, if you want to do it, you got to understand, clear. You cannot have a breakthrough until you have a breakdown. Okay? Let's be real clear. I'm going to have some great breakthroughs because I had a breakdown. Now, you don't have to go plan one of those to get that. But always remember, that's part of the process, because the old has to disappear. The old has to be released. The old has to be gone. And it doesn't matter what it is. Has anybody been in a relationship that didn't work? Okay? Before you can break through into your new paradigm, the old relationship has to break down. Okay? And you have to deal with both parts. You have to deal with the breakdown and then the breakthrough into the new. Just ask the caterpillar that weaves the cocoon and goes inside and goes through the transformation and becomes the butterfly. When the butterfly is fully formed, it has to struggle to break free of the confines of the cocoon. Well, let's just give it a little help. You do that, you kill the butterfly, because it's the strength of breaking free of the confines of the cocoon that give it the strength to go on to be the glory and the beauty that it is. No different than a child sitting nice and safely in that womb for about 9 months of development, and all of a sudden one day the water breaks and this whole horrible thing happens, and there's a whole total breakdown in that system. And there's the breakthrough into new life. Okay? Yeah. And so all of our processes, everything that we do, if you want to bring change in, you must remember that having the breakdown is a natural part of the process, and you got to work with it and go with it and not fight it, not ignore it, not leave it. You got to jump right into it. And yes, it's messy, yes, it's dirty, but that's how it's done. You ever see them take down a house to build a new house on there? A beautiful new house on that old lot? Well, look what they had to do. They had to break down the old one. They had to dig this. Oh, they made a terrible mess. But that's what happens. Okay? So we have to have that. And our biggest thing is that we a lot of times try to fight this. We try to resist it. And all we do by that is delay the process of the good that's going to come. So jump right on the bandwagon. Hey, I'm looking for the gift in the situation. I'm looking for the good that's coming. And I've gone through the breakdown and dealing with what I need to do there. But I haven't seen the good yet. I know it's coming, but I haven't seen. But I just like to know a little bit. Just give me a little hint about what's coming. No, because I'm on an as need to know basis, like you always are with the universe. We would like to know a little bit in advance so we could prepare and so we could put a little money away or a little time away. That's not how it works. I had no idea that that was going to happen. Zero. If you'd have told me, I wouldn't have believed it. But it did happen. And whoosh, here I am, cleaning up the breakthrough, wondering with the breakdown, wondering what the breakthrough is going to be. So, join with me in knowing that divine right action takes place in our life, and there's a gradual, orderly, sequential unfoldment into form of the highest and best that we are. And we stay in that place, we welcome that place, we release anything that does not go along with that breakthrough, and we experience the joy and the thanksgiving that comes and the gratitude with all the people that are part of that experience, whether we love them or we don't. They're all part of the experience if they're there. And I always remember what Dr. Tom Costa once said, some people bless you by coming, others bless you by going. And so with that, know that God is good, God is great, so are we, and so it is. And thank you.